Andy Reid has given an update on Travis Kelce and his readiness for this coming Sunday.
Oh, not about Taylor Swift.
That is correct, I imagine.
Oh,
can't wait for the song.
Interesting.
Yep. Because they had a bad summer.
Nice. Keep going. How many times can you do this?
If he's off the injured list, he would be Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Okay. Come on, man.
Okay.
You got 2 more in you.
Thankfully, Robert Griffin III is checked in.
Okay. Look, I can see him laughing. Hey, come on, Robert,
Bring
pick
him
this
on.
up. Keep going. How many can you do?
How many Taylor Swift songs do you know, Robert? What do you got for me on that?
I know a couple.
Taylor
Didn't think that's the way we'd start. Very good. Good to chat with you, Robert. Thanks for being here. So, you cover both sports. Is Deion the biggest story in sports right now? Robert, what do you think?
The biggest story in sports right now is Aaron Rodgers, right, and what's going on with the Jets. But college football-wise, Coach Prime is the biggest story. He's taken over the landscape, and I love it. I absolutely love it, Rich. Coach Prime's been great to me personally, but I think he's also great for college football because he's not lying to these kids. He's not telling them what they want to hear. He's trying to grow and develop them and speaking life into them, and I think that's a good thing. And
so many coaches would be like, I'm not talking about Heisman trophies because I don't want to fill your head. I want to make your head too big. I'm not talking about, stay off of this or that Instagram or anything. It's, as a matter of fact, we're going to pretty much damn shoot our own reality series here. And he leans into it. He leans into all of that. And that's another reason why he separates himself, I think, Robert.
Yeah, it is. And Rich, I did his spring game with Chris Fowler, Colorado. Fowler's a Colorado alum.
Yes.
And he told us, your cameras do not bother my players. And I'm like, I have no idea what he means by this. But he said, your cameras just have different initials. We shoot everything every single day so that our players are used to having that spotlight on them so that they always have to be on. And Rich, it's very difficult to be on 24/7 in the TV business or in life in general. So his players are never, the moment's never too big for them because of the production that they're shooting. You're right. He's used Colorado and Jackson State as his own company. And I think it's paying huge dividends.
How would you have responded when you were playing at Baylor if he was your coach? How would you have responded to that, do you think, Robert?
It was a different time back then. When I went to Baylor, guys graduating early wasn't the norm. I graduated January 11th and started school January 13th in 2008. So it was a different time back then. But I think the question you really have to ask is why do so many people dislike what Deion is doing? And I think it's simply because they can't recruit against him. How do you recruit against Coach Prime? You can't. There's maybe one guy, maybe two now with Kirby Smart, but maybe one or two guys, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, that can out-recruit Deion Sanders to where if he walks into your house and sits in your living room, that you're going to be like, no, I don't want to go to Colorado. Or, no, I don't want to play for you, Coach Prime. I think everyone in the country wants to play for Coach Prime, especially after the first game against TCU and what they did against Nebraska this past week. We saw NFL players all over the place talk about how they want their siblings to go play for Coach Prime because they see what he's doing and what he's instilling into these young men, that it's okay to want more. It's okay to be flashy. It's okay to celebrate. It's okay to, quote unquote, read your press clippings as long as you back them up. That's where I think Deion is right now.
And then last one for you. Again, you're a perfect person to ask this question. Do you see Shedeur's game translating to the next level, Robert?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Shedeur's game is all predicated off of decision-making. Timing, anticipation, he has all of those things. And the one knock that people might try to say about him is his arm strength, but he still has years to develop that arm strength and continue for it to get stronger. I think he's already ahead of the game with anticipation and his timing. The arm strength will come. And from what he's done, I don't know why anybody ever doubted him. They say he goes to Jackson State, he's at an HBCU, as if that's some knock on him as a player. there are great players that attend HBCUs. The majority of our NFL lineage traces back to players that went to HBCUs. So his point about the only true difference between that level of football and Division I is the offensive lineman and defensive lineman, that has been a tale as old as time. People have always said that. But the skill position players at the HBCU level and the FBS level, there's enough of them to go around. So I think Shedeur is proving that not only are HBCU players capable of playing at the Division I level, they can excel.
Robert Griffin III joining us here from the worldwide leader in sports. What was it like being in MetLife Monday night, Robert?
Man, Rich, I said this on First Take yesterday. Mm-hmm. The energy in the stadium before the game was unmatched. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Aaron Rodgers had never played a snap for the New York Jets. He had his entire career in Green Bay, and it felt like every single Jets fan was locked in and in tune with this man and announced his name on the speaker. So to see that all dissipate in 4 plays was crushing, and I'm a guy that I like to see everybody succeed. I want these guys to fulfill their dreams. And I know Aaron Rodgers wanted to go to New York and do something that Brett Favre couldn't. And to see it just go away like that, it was tough. So it made me think, Rich, what's next for Aaron Rodgers? Is he going to just call it a career? Is he going to ride off into the sunset? And I don't think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to want to end his career on his own terms. I think he's going to fight back and prove that at 39, 40 years old, he can come back from an Achilles injury and he can go win a Super Bowl. Now, I don't know if that's all going to happen, but I think that's what his mindset is going to be. I've even heard he's reaching out to people on Instagram in the DMs, asking them about advice about Achilles injuries. So he's clearly focused on getting back out there playing.
Okay, and Zach Wilson is the guy now. I think that's apparent because at this point in time, I imagine the Jets called Brady, and I imagine the Jets kicked the tires with some Godfather offers for some legit quarterback starting elsewhere in the NFL. It's just too early. No teams are going to pull the plug on their locker room or their fan bases right now. So this is Zach Wilson's gig for at least a month, one would say, until maybe other teams get desperate. What do you think the odds are that he actually is a game manager that can get the Jets through this crucible, starting with Dallas on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, come on now, Rich. That Dallas game, that's a tough one to have your first start of the season. But when you bring all that up, I'm on TV with guys that are talking about they got to go trade for Matthew Stafford and, hey, let's pull Matt Ryan out of retirement. Go get Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees or, even some people out there thought I was pitching myself to the Jets, which I wasn't pitching myself to the Jets. I was just saying there's guys out there who can play. None of us, myself included, are going to go in and be able to help the Jets beat the Cowboys more than Zach Wilson can. Any guy off the street or from any other team that they bring in is going to take at least a month to get acclimated to the system, to the team, the camaraderie. Because, Rich, football is more than just ability, right? We see Cam Newton's out there. Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick, and I'm sure Carson Wentz are better than some of the quarterbacks that are on teams right now. That's without a doubt. Whether you like them or not, they're top 64 quarterbacks in the world. They could be in the league, but they're not in the league because they can be somewhat of a distraction if you have a starter with a high-profile backup behind them. But none of those guys will help the Jets win this year. It's Zach Wilson's gig. The best thing that he can do is what he did last year when he was protecting the ball at certain points. Now, he has been a turnover. We all have that documented. If the defense comes up and shows up like it did and plays like a number one defense, the special teams is on point, all Zach Wilson has to do is not turn the ball over and be high percentage in the passing game. I saw Breece Hall 2 carries. At one point, he had 2 carries for 109 yards. This team can still win. No one will say they're a Super Bowl contender because they don't believe in Zach Wilson. But I still believe that if they play the way they played against the Bills, which is a big ask, it's a big ask. But if they play that way, they can still win the Super Bowl.
Well, and I saw the sequence on ESPN where folks were saying you were pitching yourself to the Jets. You were talking about how some executives had told you that they would actually consider bringing you in if it wasn't for the fact that the guy that you'd be backing up was either a bit shaky, and thus your presence there might cause some distractions, media, maybe in the locker room, or in the fact that that you'd be there as a backup and not to get in there. And that's kind of where things would be unless they brought in Stafford, right? But executives basically did tell you that if you come in, that this might be an issue, so we're just not going to reach out to you. That happened, Robert?
No. So, Rich, first of all, yes, it was. And it was 3 executives, to be exact, for anybody out there that doubts me. 3 executives talked to me and told me that they were in, but they believe because the guy that they had at the starting position, it would not be good for him because of the eyes that would be there. Now, Rich, I'm going to be honest with you. I told them, look at what I did with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. It was never a distraction, supported my guy, was there for him when he was the MVP of the league, unanimous MVP. Yeah. When we went on a tear there at Baltimore and ran for the most rushing yards in the dang galaxy, right? I talked to them about that. And they were honest. They said, we get that and we understand that, but our fans don't. We get that, we understand that, but our media doesn't get that. And that's an honest conversation that you can have when you're a player like myself at 33 years old who's now been doing TV for 2.5 years. There is no cookie cutter or beating around the bush. You get right straight to it. So I respected those GMs for talking to me in that way and letting me know what was up. But they also said, look, if one of our guys goes down, then, for sure we would make bringing you in that situation. So I was just trying to reiterate that, and not trying. That's exactly what I reiterated. And there were some, Twitter trolls out there that want to cut pieces and edit them and try to make people look a certain type of way. But at the end of the day, the message is simple. Zach Wilson gives the Jets the best chance to win. No one else is going to come save the Jets. And if the Jets don't accept that, they should have never kept Zach Wilson on their roster. They should have never kept him on the roster if this exact moment was going to happen and they didn't have trust in him. They shouldn't have put him there. And I think they do have trust.
Yeah, because they have no other choice.
No other choice. They got no other choice.
And that's part of the mourning process that I was going through on Monday night, with all due respect to Zach, is that I knew this was going to be the case. I knew this was the new reality after months of living in what turned out to be fantasy world that Aaron Rodgers was going to play quarterback for the Jets this year. So that is the actual reality of it. So before I let you go, what's your concern level about Josh Allen, having seen what you saw on Monday night, Robert?
Yeah, Rich, with Josh, I really do love Josh's game. And more times than not, he balances out the turnovers with spectacular plays, right? If he throws 3 picks, he throws 4 touchdowns. Or if he throws 2 picks, he throws 5 touchdowns, whatever it may be. But all offseason, this is all we talked about with Josh. Hey, you got to protect the ball. You got to protect your body. You got to play smarter football, and you got to get Stephon Diggs involved. Well, he did get Stephon Diggs involved. 100 yards receiving, that was awesome. But everything else, he threw caution to the wind. And honestly, for me, normally we see Josh make some questionable throws, but not quite as many as he had in the game against the Jets. He threw into double covers twice deep down the field when he shouldn't have. On one of them, he actually had a tight end running down free down the sideline that he could have hit, who was still kind of covered, but was one-on-one, which is more of an opportunity ball. But when you ask the specific question of what's my level of concern, I would just tell you to look at Josh Allen's face. Look at his face in the post-game presser. That didn't look like a guy that knew or had the solutions to the problem. He did accept the blame and say it was all on him for them losing the game, which I tip my hat to him for, not only because that's what you're supposed to do as a quarterback, but because it was the reality of the situation. But I do think that he needs to go in and just do some soul searching about when he needs to put on the cape and when he needs to take it off. Because he's so used to being Superman, and I don't want this to take away his stinger, Rich. His stinger is his ability to make big-time plays. But he's got to stop hurting his team.
Well, and then, Allen, as we all know, has been part of the Final Four in the AFC for a while. for a few years in a row. Burrow lost as well. You had Mahomes lose week 1, and obviously Trevor Lawrence wins week 1. It's Lawrence versus Mahomes this weekend. My last one for you. 1 weekend, and I understand this is an overreaction, knee-jerk question, but why not? Won't hold you to it. Who do you think is the Final Four in the AFC now after what you saw in week 1, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, Rich, you want to put me on the spot, and I don't have an answer for that because, for one, Joe Burrow has avoided a lot of criticism because of how bad Josh played. Right, Burrow had a terrible game, worst completion percentage of his career. I think they were 2 for 15 on third downs. I mean, they looked atrocious. They couldn't protect him. And I'll go ahead and say this, Rich, because I said it before. I'm really afraid for Joe Burrow. Because there's a guy that was drafted before me named Andrew Luck who got beat up in Indy for years. And he was a really great player. And his body was so beat up at the end of his career, he decided to just hang it up. He hung it up. And I don't want to see that happen to Joe Burrow because he is getting the living crap beat out of him in the pocket. And I got the facts to back it up. Since 2021, he's been the second most hit quarterback inside the pocket. And I don't to see Joe Burrow turn into Andrew Luck. That to me would be a travesty for Joe, it'd be a travesty for the Bengals, and it'd be a travesty for the league because this guy is so talented, man. So that would be my biggest concern right now. This is why I hate doing power rankings. I hate doing top 5 teams. We all have to do in this industry. I get it. Like it's hard up. But when you look at the games, it's like, okay, so I guess the Rams. They must be one of the best teams in the league because they completely dismantled the Seahawks. And I just don't know where to go with that. So I'm not going to give you my Final Four. I'm just going to continue to just give my analysis, and we'll see if they all land.
Well done. Way to stand tall, Robert Griffin.
Come on,
and
Robert,
true to your
play
convictions.
The game.
No, he will not play the game. He will not play
Dolphins, Bills, Chiefs.
Yeah. Who's your fourth?
Who's my fourth? Yeah. I don't know. There are no fourth. Yeah. NFC better than AFC.
Let me put it this way to you. The Chiefs lost to the Lions, right?
Yes.
But no one is going to sit here and the Chiefs can't win it all. No one's going to say that. They lost without Chris Jones and without Travis Kelce. It's not an asterisk. So take that and kick it out the window. Correct. The Lions beat the Chiefs. It doesn't matter who was on the field.
Right.
They beat them. But I'm not here and saying the Chiefs are done. No, they're 0-1. They lost. I get it. Let's wait a couple of weeks before we start making all these, big statements about these teams. We don't know who these teams are right now.
Robert Griffin III, thanks for the time. I cherish our chats. Thanks again. We'll do this again soon. And on Zoom, I greatly appreciate it. Good to see you.
Right. It's good to see you guys this time on Zoom.
Finally.
Great job.
All right. That's Robert Griffin III, one of the best at the worldwide leader in sports, so much, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay. Very good.
Bye-bye.
Your microphone's on, Mike.
Oh, sorry. The audio guy. I just wanted to say goodbye to him.
I know.
You say goodbye to people. You're a nice guy.
I do that to
very
everybody.
friendly.
I do that to everybody. I'm sorry.
No,
very, very
friendly. Don't ever apologize. Don't ever apologize for being courteous
to our guests.
You should apologize for hitting the wrong button. Yeah.
You're not paying attention.
Yeah,
stuff like that you should apologize for. But.
You should definitely pay attention.
Yeah.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.